started Hitcents 14 years ago in America. We were actually in high school when we started the company, and it's changed a lot over time. Over a year ago, I actually decided to move to China because of the expansion of the global market, and that's what brought me here now and has allowed us to bridge kind of the gap between the Eastern and the Western culture. So just a little bit of information about Hitcents. We have offices located around the world, Shanghai, and then in the United States, we're located in San Francisco and LA, and then in Bowling Green, Kentucky. We have delivered over 25 million downloads within our US territory. So just to kind of give you an overview of what we're going to be talking about today, the first thing is different kinds of IP. I think there's a lot of confusion with the IP that people are using. And then the advantages of IP. I want to go over some success stories that are out there, and then tell you kind of how our company works through some of these processes. So just to break down the different kind of IP, Hollywood IP is obviously a big thing globally. Hollywood is driving a lot of movies that are released internationally, a lot of shows that are coming into the China market as well as the Western territories. But we don't just have the Hollywood IP, we also have movie stars that represent a large portion of fan bases. And then as well we have movie directors and writers. So there's a lot of famous movie directors and writers out there that have needs for IP-based games. On top of that, we have sports stars and music bands. So I have a few examples. I just want to lay out the advantages of IP within a game. So in this current model here, you see your typical mobile game that we're all used to using today. And so in a mobile game, it's kind of, you have CPI campaigns, and then you're utilizing social media. So you're utilizing Sina Weibo here in America, we're utilizing Facebook and Twitter, and then also we use multiplayer so that you can get your friends engaged into the game. When you add IP, there's things to create a typewriter app. And it's Tom Hanks is a very famous actor, and he actually collects typewriters. So he sent us the typewriters to our office. We actually modeled an app off of his physical typewriters. We recorded the sound of every key that was pressed. We took the fonts off all the characters, and we created a typewriter app. So obviously this doesn't really work in China, since China doesn't have typewriters, but it's just an example of taking a famous person, using their name to help drive, to be able to help drive traffic into an app. Movie directors, we did an app with John Woo. It's called Bloodstroke. So working with just like movie directors and producers, we have the ability to have them maybe write a story, do some other promotions with it. And then sports apps. There's a lot going on with sports apps nowadays. This is an app that we did with Patrick Kane. He's a hockey player. He's very famous in Canada. This was a #1 paid sports app in 15 countries, so it was a pretty big success. Also, whenever you bring in a lot of this famous IP, especially with this Patrick Kane one, we actually were able to get a sponsorship through McDonald's, and we put in some of their branding into the game. So there's a lot of other opportunities when you start bringing in IP. Also, especially in China, I feel like there's a lot into music and music appreciation in games, even more than the Western market. And so this is one we did with J-Lo, where we actually used her music and we created a sound game, kind of like Guitar Hero, where you're actually having to hit different colors, and it's based off of her music. And so what we get to do with these kind of things is we get to use her fan base. So she might have 11 million followers, she can promote it to her followers, really reducing our advertising costs that we're used to having to pay when we just release a regular game or app. So I just want to just show you a few success stories. A lot of you have probably heard about this game. It was developed by Glue. They put out the game Stardom 2 years ago, and the daily revenue max was about $3,000 US a day. A month ago, they took the exact same game, and they took a famous Western IP star, Kim Kardashian, and they put it into the game. It's the exact same game. They just kind of slapped her name on it, changed the story a little bit, and now it's doing over 300,000 US a day just in America. So it's been a huge success, and it's really got a lot of people talking about IP in games, especially in the American side. Another example is this whole idea of Western IP in China. Since our company is we're located here in China, we are working here and trying to expand our business, it's important for us to try to develop things that work both in the Chinese market and the Western market. So this is the Minion Rush game that came out by Gameloft, and it was a very big success. It was something that 360 did and worked with, and there were some other publishers involved. But the daily active users, the monthly active users of this game were extremely high, and I'm comparing it here to a game that doesn't have any kind of IP tied to it. So we all know that every day there's more and more apps coming out, and it's becoming harder and harder to get seen. And what we normally do is we just have to spend more on advertising. So we can actually find ways with IP to get people to get a little more excited about the game. So I just want to talk a little bit about the complications of IP, because I think this is a very general term that's used often. But when we look at IP, especially movie IP, there's many owners that are involved with the IP. So with a movie IP, you really have to start working with the directors. You have to start working with the talent agencies. You have to start working with the producers, the publishers, the movie publishers, and then if there's movie stars involved and you want to put them into the game, you have to specifically work with the movie stars. So it's a really complicated process. It's not as easy as just buying an IP from one person. The other challenging thing is just the global versus a territory. So if you want to buy an IP for a global right, it's going to cost more than if you want to buy it just for one territory. So a lot of times what we look at is we might just purchase an IP for China, try to find a Chinese partner, and just publish it there because it'll be cheaper. Or we'll buy the global rights, and then we can kind of break it up into different territories where we have partners. Another thing that's really challenging with IP is trust and relationships. So what happens a lot of time is this IP is protected. It's the number one thing. If you let your IP get away, then you lose what you have. So having good relationships with the IP owners is very important, and making sure that they trust you. If they don't trust you and you don't have a relationship, so it's really hard to get a lot of the IP. So if anybody's tried to get IP, you can see you get a lot of pushback if you don't have an existing relationship with the main IP owners. And then the other thing is IP owner input. So a lot of us are used to creating our own games, which is our own IP, and we put it out there and we just kind of see what happens. We can do whatever we want. We can make whatever changes we want. We can just have fun with it. If you're bringing in any kind of IP into the game, then the IP owner is going to want to have some kind of say in what's going on. If it's a kid's game and you decide you want to burn their main character on fire, they're probably not going to like that. So there's this process that has to take place to where the IP owners are actually involved during the development process. Just a quick overview of how Hitcents does it. So we have an office in LA, and that's where the majority of the Western IP comes from. And so the idea is that we can work hand in hand with the IP owners. We sit down with Tom Hanks, for example. We review the app, we show it to them, we make sure that they are happy with the outcome or how it's working so that he's happy. And then actually being able to come up with a creative idea. I think one of the things that we have to realize is if you look at the example of the Glue game I brought up, the Stardom game was actually a really good game because it's being very successful now. But once they added the Kim IP, it got exposure and became big. The game didn't really change. On the other side of that, if you just have IP and your game's no good, then nobody's going to play. So we have a lot of examples of both of these things. So what we do is we have a San Francisco office where we try to innovate a great idea that matches the IP holders that we're working with, sit down face-to-face with them, present the idea so that it can be the most successful as possible. And then after you actually have this idea created, we move into the development phase, and that's where the whole Chinese side of things take place for us, having Chinese partners, working with Chinese partners for development resources or for publishing resources is something that's very important. And then once we're done with that, most of the time we'll have global rights. So working with people in China, but then also Japan and South Korea, and then focusing on the Western markets as well. So I just kind of went through the offices, or where we're located. Our China office is in Shanghai. So I guess that's it, and I'll be around, so if anybody has any questions or anything, feel free to stop by and talk to me. Thank you.